Hi friends, Dave Paulides, Canada Missing Project. This is the executive producer of the show, Huck L. Berry. Oh, good girl, Huck. You're a good girl. Yes, a good girl. She's been playing outside. She's all wet. All wet. Get some nice heat in here and dry off, okay? Okay. Yes, a good girl. Yes, a good girl. Good puppy. And she always wants me to say this. She said, Dad, you gotta tell him this is my channel. Yes, this is Huck's channel. This is yours, yeah. And she'll be in here for this. And remember, American Sasquatch available to watch at Amazon and iTunes. And we need reviews on that, so if you watch it, please leave a review. It would help us immensely. Reminder, coming up March 21st in Tacoma, we are going to have our premiere. Yes, in Tacoma. More details to follow. The other day, somebody sent in a very touching gift. Dave, hi Huck and Dave. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. I saw these cups and had to have one and thought you would get a kick out of it too. I didn't want to leave it out for lovely Huck L. Berry. Keep up the great work. Don't let the haters get you down. As Confucius said, the object of the superior man is truth. Maybe I'll see you at the Bigfoot conference in Ocala. I don't live far from there. Lisa in Florida. I'll show you this cup as I read you about it. Things could be worse. Mug. Everyone has had bad days. You lose your keys. You lose your job. You lose your superpowers. Yeah, that's happened. The mug helps you cope with bad, hard times by reminding you that things could be much worse. You could also be pursued by giant robots, plagued by pterodactyls, pestered by zombie poodles, and worse. Cheer up. And there is Bigfoot. I like it. And then she sent me this, a Christmas ornament, and I swear to you, Huck looks just like that. That is a great ornament. That will go up on the tree the next year. Beautiful. Thank you very, very much. Very thoughtful. Very thoughtful. Huck's going, hey, Dad, that kind of looked like me. Yeah, it did. The case was today. Strange to say the least. Two of them, very strange. And on their face, the first one may look like something drug-related. I'll explain why it's not. But, yeah, you're a good girl. You're a good girl. The first case involves a man named Samuel Reyes, 32 years old, missing December 11th, 2020. San Antonio, Texas. He had recently enrolled in the U.S. Army, making a life-changing decision. In the past, his mother said he had addiction issues, but he had cleaned up. Supposedly, he was going into the new soldier orientation for the Army on December 14th, 2020. Samuel was driven to his grandmother's house on the east side of San Antonio to get ready for orientation. He was scheduled to leave for boot camp on January 11th. This is Samuel. Kind of the timeline on this. December 10th, during the nighttime hours, Samuel was living with his grandmother at her home, who also had his cousin living there with them. Come here. Come here. It's okay. Come here. Come here. Come on. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Well, the female cousin was in the house. At 11:38 p.m., Samuel called 911 3 times from his cell phone in his bedroom. The deputies came, arrived at the door, knocked on it. Samuel didn't answer, he was in his room. But the grandmother gets up out of her room, didn't even know anything was going on, and answered the door. Deputies said, hey, we're here for a 911 call from Samuel. Well, the cousin didn't come out of her room, and the grandmother was really flabbergasted. She didn't know what was happening, was worried. So the grandmother goes to Samuel's room, knocks on the door, no answer, opens the door, it moves slightly inwards, but something's blocking the door. He had all kinds of things blocking the door. Well, eventually the grandmother is tough. She pushes the things out of the way, gets in, and finds Samuel cowering in the corner, saying, they're coming for me. She wasn't sure what he meant. So she talks to him and says, hey, just come out into the family room. And the deputies are here because you called them. They're not here for anything else. You called them. Eventually, Samuel comes out into the living room and speaks to the deputies. The deputies could see something was wrong, and they called for emergency medical services. Well, EMS arrives, and they evaluate him. This is important, folks. Pay attention. The deputies were there. They could feel and they could understand that he's not under the influence of anything. See, that's how law enforcement's trained to figure out if you're under the influence of anything. There was something else going on. That's why they called EMS. EMS decides he's not under the influence, but something else is going on. And they thought maybe he was having some anxiety issues. So EMS offers to take him to the hospital. He refuses. Law enforcement and EMS also have to make a decision here. Is he a danger to himself or a danger to others? Meaning, is he suicidal or is he going to go hurt anybody? They make the determination he's not. So there's no grounds to take him into custody at all. Keep that point clear, because later on it's going to be really important. So after EMS leaves, excuse me, it's just he and his grandmother in the living room, and he tells her that he failed her and others, and he seemed depressed. So the grandmother sits down on the couch with him and stays up to calm him down. Explain, hey, everything's okay, you didn't let anybody down, we all have troubles. So after a long, lengthy period of time, the grandmother feels that he's all calmed down. He's going to sleep out on the couch, he'll be fine. And she went to her bedroom and went back to sleep. Later, Sam knocks on the cousin's door inside the house. She answers, she's 16. And he said he wanted her to punch him in the face. Weird request. She refuses. The cousin claimed later that he must have been drinking alcohol. Again, if maybe he did after the deputies and the EMS left, but at the time he was not under the influence. The early morning hours of December 11th, the grandmother hears a knock on her door. She's slow to get up. She gets up, she opens her bedroom door and looks out and notices the front door to her home is open. Samuel's nowhere. She goes outside, looks for him, calls his name, nothing. He's gone. Now she's perplexed. because he obviously knocked on the door. As she's coming back from the front door and Samuel's gone, she notices his wallet and phone sitting on the coffee table in the living room. She looks in his bedroom and notices that his shoes are sitting on the floor. Weird. So what happens after that? Samuel does about a 12-minute walk to a church off of Rigsby Avenue and I-470. I-410 rather. It's about 12 minutes to hike to this church right here. There's a pond next to it. A lot of open fields across. So he goes in the church and he tells the people inside that are getting prepared to do a pancake breakfast, he says, "I'm here looking for my cousin that was kidnapped." People took him seriously. Said, "Oh, she's not here, but you're welcome to look around the church." And he did. And some of the other men followed him around. Some of the other men described him as maybe being paranoid. He also wanted search the outside of the church, which he did. He didn't ask for any food. He didn't ask for anything else. And the men in the church actually see him crossing the street to walk away from the church after he had searched. Now, sometime between 15 and 30 minutes, oh, by the way, while he's in the church, he's on CCTV. The deputies found this. And he's walking around with no shoes. Nobody's around but him. So he leaves the church. 15 to 30 minutes later, somebody knocks on the grandmother's door again. He doesn't have a key. Grandma gets up again, makes it to the front door, nobody's there. So nobody's really quite sure who knocked on that front door. But since it's rare for the grandmother to get a knock on the door in the middle of the morning, it's a good chance it might have been Samuel. Well, Samuel didn't come back that day. Grandmother calls friends, relatives, cousins. Cousins call friends, relatives. Nothing. Remember, his phone and his wallet are still in the house. So late on December 11th, the grandmother reports Samuel as a missing person to San Antonio PD. Grandmother then calls his mom and dad that are divorced. Dad's in California. And eventually things start rolling. They're not quite sure what really happened, but the family organized several searches. On March 6th, a group of volunteers searched the area around the church, including the ponds. Mom stated at this point that it makes no sense. Her quote is, "This makes no sense at all. He just vanished." Teeler Park was the area that was searched thoroughly, and the family offered a $10,000 reward. There was some question whether Samuel made it for his recruiting meeting. We'll address that later. Now, during that search, she got EcuSearch and Alamo SAR to search for her son, the mother. Both those are really, EcuSearch is an outstanding search organization. They find people. Both participated in extremely large-scale searches, including cadaver dogs, search dogs, ground pounders, drones, ATVs. They dragged ponds. Nothing. So everyone believed he was far out of the area because cadaver dogs would have picked up a scent. Family contacted a psychic, and a psychic gave them GPS coordinates of where he was, several of them that they thought. Some were in downtown San Antonio, and searchers went into some pretty rough areas and searched, and he was never found there. Now, if you're the family and you're trying to figure out what's going on, his mom gave many interviews about the case. And she was afraid that the night that the police ended up at their house, that Samuel may have relapsed into drug dependency again. But as I stated, you just not only have a police officer's opinion, you have two EMS people's opinion. He was not under the influence. Now, on April 21st, here's the kicker, folks, the one that really makes things odd. Bexar County, Texas coroner contacted the mother, Lene, stating that they had recovered Sam's body. Well, a contact nobody wants. Now here's the weird part. The body was located in a private lot, in a ditch on the lot, found by surveyors doing private work. But that's not it. The body was found naked. That was Huck. The Army later reported that he never showed up for his December 14th orientation and never called to advise he wouldn't be there. Important points. Important points. EMS and sheriffs spoke with, evaluated, and spent considerable time around Samuel at the grandmother's home. It would be their job, and their job would be on the line if they let somebody go who was suicidal, a danger to themselves or others, or under the influence of an illicit drug. Obviously, they never believed he was. He may have had anxiety issues. Drugs, no. Cause of death by the coroner? Hold on. Drum roll. Unknown. When I thought about this, and I thought about Samuel's behavior, I know this may seem completely outlandish to some. There was a show on the X-Files about a man named Max, who was a multi-abductee. And his behavior that they exhibited on the show, exactly the way Samuel's behavior was. Now, I'm not saying Samuel was abducted, but his behavior is very similar to many abductees who have been haunted, chased, prodded, stripped naked. Yes. Now let's go through this again. Autopsy? They would know if there was drugs in his system. And if the drugs contributed to his death, oh, that would have been the cause of death. But that wasn't. That wasn't. I get frustrated because coroners are being evasive with their release of information, because there's a few of us out there on the internet that are calling their bluff. Just calling out the obvious, folks. Just calling out the obvious. So God rest your soul, Samuel Reyes. Samuel's mom, you did a great thing chasing down all the clues like you did. Next case involves a man named Leo Wagner. Kind of in my neck of the woods. This is Leo, 26 years old, missing April 27th, 2023 from Babb, Montana, just outside Glacier National Park, just east of Glacier. Now, Leo worked and lived on the family ranch outside of Browning, Montana. On the morning of April 27th, he told his family that he was going to the St. Mary's Lake area where his dad was building a cabin. And he got a couple friends that were going to give him a ride. He grew up in a close-knit family, and his family and his friends knew Leo as a jokester, that he liked to make everybody laugh. He enjoyed boxing as a sport and often got into the ring. Last seen wearing, important now, t-shirt, Levi's, cowboy boots. That was on a cold day, April 27th, 2023. And lastly, at 26 years old, Leo had 5 kids. Busy young man. Well, that night at 6:35 p.m., April 27th, a man was reported walking in and out of St. Mary's Lake, and he appeared to be injured and bleeding. Now, this is the eastern entrance right here to Glacier National Park, one of them. This is St. Mary's Lake. This is Lower St. Mary's Lake. This is Duck Lake. This area right in here, the east side of Glacier National Park, is stunningly gorgeous. Stunningly. So, just a description of a man walking in and out of the lake. He appeared to be injured and bleeding. It was a tribal elder from the Blackfeet tribe that saw this, and he also thought that the man was crying. So he called the police. 2 different calls were made to the police. The second call, they dispatched an ambulance, as well as police. Emergency services arrived. They searched the area. They couldn't find anything. Now, others had seen Leo walking from the lake down a road. Now, why he wasn't found immediately, I have no idea. But on the night of April 28th, Leo was reported missing by his family. Nobody had seen him, heard from him, and law enforcement had no contact. Now, weirdly, very weirdly, 4 days later, May 2nd, law enforcement gets dispatched to a cabin on St. Mary's Lake, not far from where Leo was last seen, that had been burglarized. They walk into the cabin and there's a lot of blood everywhere. And they also find clothing on the scene. And they confiscate and photograph the clothing. They show it to Leo's family, and they identify it as belonging to Leo. Cabin burglarized in close proximity to where Leo was seen, and he was injured, and there was blood, and now they're finding blood there. Doesn't sound good, folks. Doesn't sound good. So after law enforcement finds this cabin and finds some of Leo's clothing, they decide that they're going to start a search and rescue because someone's hurt and not being found. So the Cascade County Sheriff takes over the search, and much of the ground pounders, drone, ATV searches were done by Cascade County. They also brought in specialized boats to search St. Mary's Lake to see if possibly Leo's in the lake. And they used the most advanced side scan sonar available. So they did a really good search of that lake. he wasn't there. They reported that they searched a total of 70 square miles. That's a lot of searching. And like I said, this area is on the fringe of Glacier National Park. Now we're approaching 3 years since the incident happened, and Leo's never been found, which is odd. On May 9th, the search and rescue was terminated without any findings at all. Now, on the map I showed you, Browning is kind of southeast from this location at St. Mary's, kind of through the mountain roads. Browning is, say, the hub of the Blackfeet Reservation on the east side of Glacier National Park. It can be a very rough city. I've said before that I've stopped there to get gas, and I kept my eyes in the back of my head because there were some people hanging around the gas station that made me even nervous. When I went inside to use the restroom, I made a quick trip and I kept my eyes on my truck. Now, this has no relevance to Leo as a person at all. I'm just describing you that there is crime in Browning. And the Blackfeet tribe has been a group that's been victimized by cartel activity and drug running through their reservation. Here's the issue. The Blackfeet want to be a standalone, we don't need your help type location. They don't like outside influence, pestering tribal members, etc. And I get that. But what's happened is that cartel members have set up shop in these various tribal areas, all throughout Montana, Idaho, etc. And what they do is they get on the land and they find a lone, lonely female and they hook up with her. And all of a sudden she's with somebody who has money, a cartel member. And then they set up shop on the reservation. And that is their distribution center for their narcotics on the reservation. Now, up until fairly recently, law enforcement couldn't pursue and do drug investigations, big scale ones on a reservation, which is why the cartel set up there. Our Attorney General in Montana, Austin Knudsen, got law passed with the assistance of tribal members that they can pursue, and they will go onto tribal property to look for any type of criminals. I feel sorry for the tribal members that they've been victimized like this, because it's a very bad element that's penetrating many of the tribes in North America. South Dakota, Wyoming, it doesn't matter. It's all over. I do believe that something happened unusual with Leo. He's not in the lake. But I don't know what happened. He was a hard-working guy on his family's ranch. He was going out there to work with his dad, and something happened. I've personally investigated hundreds of burglaries, and maybe 1% of the time, the burglar breaking into the house cuts themselves on the glass going in. And I can remember a couple times there was a lot of blood. Oh yeah, we took the blood in an attempt to identify the suspect, but as far as I knew, the suspect was never identified in the cases I investigated. But it does happen. That area, I would rate that, the views from that area to Glacier National Park, some of the top 10 most beautiful sites of national parks anywhere in North America. It is beautiful. So, Huck's saying, Dad, I'm getting antsy here. Hey, come here. Come here. She goes, I'll come over and say hi to you, Dad. Here's your good girl. Sit. 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 That's your good girl. So, Huck and I are going to say, thanks for being here. Here's your good girl. Thanks for being here. Huck appreciates it. She's a good girl. You guys be kind to others. Kindness is free. It's contagious. And it's good for humanity. Be safe. Be kind. Light us out.